Chapter 161. The Man Under a Curse. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. She is a descendant of the great witch immortal family, dealing with the Golden Commander, which shouldn't be a problem for her. Yi Xiaoyang thought to himself, although Tan Xiaowei and Jin Shui were white and black sorcerers, they were both fellow practitioners of Miaojiang. Tan Xiaowei might have some secret method of capturing them that she didn't want anyone to know, which is why she chose to act alone. Thinking this, Yi Xiaoyang's confidence in capturing Jin Shui increased, and his mood improved considerably. Turning around, he saw Li Wei and Xiao Ma discussing something. He nodded repeatedly, assuring them, "Rest assured, Taoist Master Ma, I understand the rules very well. There will be no problem." Xiao Ma frowned at Yi Xiaoyang, making an okay gesture. Yi Xiaoyang was overjoyed and proactively inquired about Li Wei's younger brother's possession. As soon as his brother was mentioned, Li Wei put down his wine glass, sighed, and said something that greatly intrigued Yi Xiaoyang. "You might not believe it, but my younger brother was frightened by a water demon." Yi Xiaoyang felt very excited upon hearing this. "It's fascinating," he nodded repeatedly, telling the man to go on. "It all started 2 or 3 years ago." These words stirred something in Yi Xiaoyang's heart. 2 or 3 years ago. Could the exorcism really be related to the 5 Ghost Mountain formation? "I'm originally from the Li family. I graduated from university and joined the Xingqing group. Later, I was valued by General Manager Zhou and assigned to be the director in charge of the company. My younger brother, however, only worked in agriculture. Behind the Li family's embankment was a reservoir surrounded by a mountain range. 5 years ago, I signed a contract to lease this place for freshwater farming, and then handed it over to my younger brother to manage. In those years, the market value wasn't bad, and my younger brother made a considerable profit. However, starting last year, strange things started happening in the reservoir. The water turned black, became colder, and the wind blowing across the surface was equally chilling. The locals loved swimming in the reservoir, but that summer, several people disappeared while swimming, and their bodies haven't been recovered to this day. The ghostly stories of the reservoir are just like. That's how it spread from person to person. But that was still mild. What happened afterward was even stranger. My younger brother and the fishermen caught fewer and fewer fish, and the fish they did catch all turned black, their eyes pitch black like human eye sockets, and they even had a pair of terrifying fangs. If you touched them, you'd get bitten immediately. The locals called them zombie fish, and after a specialist came to investigate, they couldn't find the cause. Even cats wouldn't dare eat these fish, let alone people. Fishermen gradually avoided the reservoir, and it became a forbidden area. No one dared go there even during the day. But the most terrifying things were yet to come. Li Wei pursed his lips and continued, "I've only heard rumors, and I'm afraid they might be false. Perhaps Mr. Yi should just meet my younger brother and ask him directly for clarification." After dinner, Chu Jingru arranged for Wang Ping to stay, while the other 4. Chapter 162. Beautiful. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. "Oh, how could this happen?" Xiao Ling exclaimed in shock. Yi Xiaoyang asked, "How long has he been lying like this?" "It's been over a month since the unfortunate incident. Initially, it was just a cold with a fever, but the medicine didn't help. Later, it got worse and worse, and he couldn't even speak. His family took him to many large hospitals, but they couldn't find the cause. Then they invited several Yinyang masters to examine him, and they all said." Fear flickered in Xiao Ling's eyes as she whispered, "There's a demon clinging to him. Its cultivation is too strong. We can't get rid of it. Mr. Yi, is that right?" Yi Xiaoyang remained silent, grasping Li Yueqing's burning arm and releasing a surge of spiritual energy into his body. His eyebrows furrowed, and he released his grip, muttering, "That's impossible." Everyone watched him nervously, not daring to speak. Yi Xiaoyang looked at the young woman holding a bowl beside him and asked, "And this is?" "This is the special maid hired to take care of him, Sister Wu," Xiao Ling introduced. Yi Xiaoyang stood up, walked to Sister Wu, took the bowl from her hand, looked at the soup inside, and said, "Is this soup for the patient?" Sister Wu nodded. Yi Xiaoyang picked it up and drank, a scene that stunned everyone. Xiaoling rushed over and snatched the bowl away. Oh dear, Mr. Yi. If you're hungry, just say so. I'll go prepare some soup for you. This is soup for the patient. He's already drunk more than half of it. It's not good for him. Yi Xiaoyang took a sip and clicked his tongue, asking, Who cooked this soup? I cooked it. Xiaoling looked at him nervously. Is there something wrong? What ingredients did you use? Longan fruit and lotus seeds, and a little shredded dried meat. Yi Xiaoyang immediately said, Show me the shredded dried meat. Xiaoling didn't know why he made such a strange request, and was momentarily bewildered. Li Wei stood aside and reminded her, Mr. Yi has his own arrangements. If he told you to get it, go get it quickly. Xiaoling hurried out of the room, and a moment later, she returned with a box of shredded pork floss. Yi Xiaoyang picked up a piece, tasted it, and asked, Besides these ingredients, there's nothing else in the soup, right? Xiaoling hesitated and nodded. Yi Xiaoyang pondered for a moment, looked at everyone, and then said, We're tired today. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Sister-in-law Xiaoling, do you have enough rooms? Yes. Let me go prepare some for you. Xiaoling said, then turned to leave. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at her and said, Tell the maid to prepare, and everyone else go outside first. I have a few things I want to say to sister-in-law Xiaoling. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what his intentions were, but they didn't dare ask too many questions. Under the maid's guidance, they all went upstairs to rest. Mr. Yi, do you have something you need to say to me? After everyone had left, Xiaoling looked at Yi Xiaoyang and asked in surprise. Yi Xiaoyang held the bowl of soup in front of her and said, Have you tasted it yet? Oh, I wouldn't dare. Xiaoling's face immediately changed color. Chapter 163, Give Her a Chance. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. At this point, Xiaoling was overcome with emotion and tears welled up in her eyes. Yi Xiaoyang picked up a tissue from the bedside table, intending to give it to her, but then sensed something was wrong. Never mind, let her cry for a while. So you cooked zombie fish soup for him hoping he'd die sooner? Xiaoling covered her face, nodding and saying, I was impulsive, and then I regretted it. After all, he and I are husband and wife. But, haha, it's too late, isn't it? Mr. Yi, today you drank the medicine I cooked, ate the shredded pork I brought, and I know you've truly seen the truth. If you reveal everything to everyone, I'll be in a terrible situation. Xiaoling forced a smile, took off her shirt, and looked up at Yi Xiaoyang. Miss Chu is your girlfriend, so you probably aren't short of money, so this is my only asset. Although she's very beautiful, but Yi Xiaoyang completely ignored her, waved his hand, and said, If I refuse you, it will be like. How about that? Xiaoling chuckled. Then I'll shout loudly, so everyone knows you're messing with me. If everyone finds out, what do you think you'll say? Yi Xiaoyang sighed, thought for a moment, then made a difficult decision. He stared intently at Xiaoling and said, If I can cure your husband and keep your secret, would you agree to turn back? Xiaoling was stunned, staring at him blankly, shaking her head and muttering, No, he's beyond saving. He drank so much fish soup, he's completely incurable. Yi Xiaoyang said, Just answer me, do you agree to turn back? Xiaoling was terrified, tears streaming down her face. She mumbled, If there's a chance to start over, I agree. Then put your clothes on. Mr. Yi, can you really cure him? And keep my secret? You. Why would you? Do you want to do that? Yi Xiaoyang sighed. I hope you can cherish this opportunity, because the mistake you've made isn't too big yet. Go quickly. Xiaoling stared at him blankly. Finally, she understood that this young man hadn't intended to disrespect her from the beginning. She felt embarrassed, bowed to Yi Xiaoyang in gratitude, and then hurried away. Yi Xiaoyang breathed a sigh of relief, sat down on the bed, and suddenly there were several knocks on the door. He was startled, thinking to himself. Chapter 164, The Ghost Girl. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Only Chu Jingru and Xiao Ma sat calmly on the sofa drinking tea. Xiao Ma was glued to his mobile phone, texting and chatting with a PR beauty, not even looking at what Yi Xiaoyang was doing. Li Wei, sitting next to him, nervously wiped the sweat from his forehead, loosened his tie, glanced at Xiao Ma who was constantly typing on his phone, and muttered, "So nervous." Xiaoma looked up at him, confused, and asked, "What's there to be nervous about when Xiao Yi is taking action?" "What do you mean? That's my younger brother. What if he fails?" Xiaoma smiled, continued typing on his mobile phone, and casually said, "Why think so much? Those little things are just a flick of the wrist for Xiao Yi." Li Yueqing's face grew redder and redder, and her breathing became increasingly labored. In a hurry, Yi Xiaoyang saw this and immediately placed his head on the side of the bed, his right hand forming the phoenix eye fist and striking him on the back. With a gurgle, Li Yueqing turned his head and spat out a mouthful of foul-smelling black blood into the trash can. Xiaoling, smelling the black blood, immediately blushed and secretly glanced at Yi Xiaoyang. The black blood smelled exactly like zombie fish, obviously because he had been eating zombie fish soup for a long time, accumulating poison in his body. Yi Xiaoyang's magic instantly expelled it all. After spitting, Li Yueqing lay motionless on the bed. "Mr. Yi, what's wrong?" Xiao Ling asked anxiously. "I just cleared the zombie poison from his body. Only with a healthy body can I summon a soul." Yi Xiaoyang looked at Li Yueqing and said, "He's unconscious because he's missing a soul. I'm currently performing a soul summoning ritual." After saying that, Yi Xiaoyang told Xiao Ling to help close all the doors, pull all the curtains to cover the room, light a candle, and place it on the table, and told everyone to go to the corner of the wall, leaving a space to set up the altar. Then he drew a soul-binding circle, wrote down Li Yueqing's name and date of birth on a talisman. As Yi Xiaoyang chanted the incantation, a black figure immediately appeared within the soul-binding circle. Everyone gasped in astonishment, not daring to breathe. Only Xiao Ma remained unsurprised, casually looking up at the soul, continuing to use his mobile phone, and calmly saying to Li Wei, "I told you, it's just a trivial matter. Don't talk about a missing soul. Even the 3 souls and 7 spirits of a dead person, little Yi can bring them back to life." Li Wei wiped the sweat from his forehead and muttered 2 words, "I admire you." Yi Xiaoyang used his right thumb to tap the ghost gate of the soul, then pulled it to Li Yueqing's side, pushed his mouth open, and directly put the ghost image into his mouth. Then he drew a soul-binding talisman and pasted it on the back of his neck. Li Yueqing's complexion became increasingly rosy, and in less than a minute, he slowly began to recover. He opened his eyes. "He's awake. He's awake." The crowd was instantly terrified and shocked. Li Wei was even more agitated. With Yi Xiaoyang's permission, he stepped forward, took his younger brother's hand, and softly asked, "Xiaoqing, do you recognize me?" Li Yueqing frowned, staring at him blankly. Everyone present suddenly felt tense. Could the person who had been rescued have become mentally incapacitated? Li Yueqing pushed his brother's hand away, saying, "Brother, are you delirious? How could I not recognize you?" Then he turned to look at Yi Xiaoyang and the others, startled, and sat up, saying, "Who are you?" Chapter 165, The Grass-Mouthed Vegetable. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. As I ran past the little girl, she suddenly turned around, revealing an enormous mouth, a long nose, and a figure resembling a frog or other large-mouthed animals. She grabbed a handful of vegetables from the jar and offered them to me, asking in a gloomy voice, "The green vegetables are ruined by the leaves. What should we do now?" At that time, my mind was hazy, and I suddenly stopped running, just blurting out, "Just break off that leaf." As soon as I finished speaking, I saw the little girl break off a leaf, grinning menacingly as she walked towards me. I don't know what happened after that. After hearing his story, everyone exchanged glances. The story sounded humorous, but was also a little eerie. Xiaoma asked irritably, "Why didn't that demon just kill you directly instead of playing these games with green vegetables and leaves, asking such vague riddles? What are you doing? Are you bored and causing trouble?" Yi Xiaoyang glared at him and said, "There's something called human fate vegetable. If a female ghost knows about it, it proves she's not a human ghost and can't kill people indiscriminately. It's similar to a ghost that buys fate. She carries a life-bound object with her, and she'll ask a few Tao Cao Tai questions, 1, to anyone she meets. If you answer her questions, it will decide your fate. 1. Tao Cao Tai, a way of getting good words from others. This is a custom on Chinese New Year's Day, where people create auspicious words to express good fortune and wishes, hoping for things like luck, protection from misfortune, and peace and longevity. For example, giving money to children during Tet, Lunar New Year, is called New Year's money. The New Year's Eve dinner is called reunion dinner. The opening day is called Golden Day. Carp symbolizes annual abundance, and dumplings are called Yuan Bao. Besides these names, people also use Tao Kao Tai in greetings like, "May your fortune be as vast as the East Sea. May your life be as long as the South Mountain," to wish someone a long life. "Rise like a cloud. Reach the pinnacle of glory," to wish someone a promotion. "Congratulations on your wealth. May your wishes come true," to wish someone a happy new year. At this point, he turned to Li Yueqing and said, "When you answered by breaking a leaf, you performed the Tao Kao Tai ritual, so it took a wisp of your soul. However, that answer is fine. You just lost a wisp of your soul. Luckily, you're still alive." His explanation only further terrified the others. Chu Jingru frowned and said, "What power controlled that grass-mouth vegetable?" "The power of the contract. This kind of ghost-born creature is only allowed to stay in its territory and cannot kill people arbitrarily. However, once it leaves its territory, it must abide by the contract between the human world and the ghost realm. If it breaks the law, it will suffer a heavenly tribulation." Everyone was terrified upon hearing this. The village chief nodded and said, "That's right. In the past 2 years, many fishermen have died in the reservoir. However, anyone who encounters misfortune on the shore experiences the same situation as Xiao Qing, encountering the ghost girl and then being asked questions. For example, Li Sanjin and Li Yukai passed by the reservoir last year and saw that ghost girl. They were also bewitched just like him. The ghost girl asked them, "Can green vegetables without hearts, too, survive?" 2. A wordplay, green vegetables without hearts refers to water spinach. Chapter 166, Zombie Fish. * This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The reservoir was located north of Li Family Village. The village chief chased away the onlookers and led Yi Xiaoyang and his group to the reservoir. Along the way, Yi Xiaoyang inquired about the history of the reservoir. The village chief said, "This reservoir has existed for hundreds of years. I heard that it used to be a bottomless stream, then it was built into a reservoir to provide irrigation water for the fields downstream. Nothing really happened before, but in the last 2 years or so, the water in the reservoir has suddenly changed, and the fish have become strange. The strangest thing is that the irrigation ditches downstream of the reservoir, once the water goes beyond 300 meters, suddenly return to normal. Irrigation for vegetables and crops is no problem, and the vegetables and fruits grow normally. That's why there haven't been any major incidents. However, the fishing area has experienced serious problems, causing significant losses for the fishermen and contractors in the village." After walking 300 meters along an irrigation ditch, the village chief suddenly pointed to the boundary of a ditch and said, "Ye immortal. Look, sir, this is the black water from the reservoir flowing down. As soon as it reaches the boundary line, it turns back to normal. Take a look." Everyone bowed their heads to look, and indeed, the water, upon reaching the boundary line, became crystal clear, revealing the bottom, looking extremely bizarre. Little Ma said dejectedly, "If there really was something in the reservoir, it should gradually transform in a sequence upon leaving the water, for example, from black to murky before becoming clear. Why is it black 1 second and clear the next? It's illogical. The reason is very simple." Yi Xiaoyang pointed to the boundary line and said, "From here to the reservoir, everything is within the range of the formation. Unlike the resentment that filled Liangjia village before, the ghost energy here is confined to the reservoir. Once it leaves the reservoir, it loses its effect. And this boundary line is the limit of the formation." Although others didn't understand his explanation, Xiaoma heard it clearly and immediately said, "You mean the 5 Ghost Mountain formation?" Seeing Yi Xiaoyang nod, he asked again, "So what kind of ghost is in the reservoir?" "Probably a river demoness. 1, but this is just my guess. We'll have to see for sure." 1. River demoness. A type of river demoness. Very beautiful. The group followed the water channel to the reservoir. Above, a long corridor was built for resting, opposite the reservoir below. Yi Xiaoyang gazed into the distance. The reservoir looked very much like an obtuse triangle. Feeling a shiver down his spine, he said, "A triangular shape, a ghost trap." Chapter 167. The Opening Battle with Heiji. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Since the supplies hadn't arrived, Yi Xiaoyang didn't dare blindly launch the boat, so the group returned to the village. Yi Xiaoyang was afraid of embarrassing Xiao Ling and didn't dare go back. So the village chief happily led them to the only restaurant in the village and called several officials to entertain them. Chu Jingru disliked crowds, so she asked Li Wei to entertain them, while she, Yi Xiaoyang, and Xiao Ma sat at a separate table. After eating and resting for a while, Li Wei told Yi Xiaoyang that everything had arrived. As soon as Yi Xiaoyang and the other two arrived at the reservoir, they saw all the supplies he had requested were already in the boat's hold. Yi Xiaoyang said to the village chief, "Who knows how to steer a boat? Teach me. It's simple, everyone knows." The village chief himself jumped into the boat, pouring fuel into the motor. Yi Xiaoyang pulled Xiao Ma onto the boat with him, and under the old man's guidance, the two quickly learned the technique of rowing. After the village chief went ashore, Xiao Ma practiced rowing for a while. Once he was comfortable, they both entered the lake. On the shore, the village chief and everyone else watched them intently. In the past 2 or 3 years, it was the only boat that dared to start its engine and launch into the water. What incredible skill and courage. The village chief whispered, "I just hope nothing happens to them." Chu Jingru instinctively clasped her hands together in a cross shape, praying for Yi Xiaoyang, but suddenly remembered he was a Taoist priest, quickly lowering her hands, thinking to herself, "Does Jesus bless Taoists?" On the boat, Yi Xiaoyang chatted with Xiao Ma, instructing him to steer slowly. Both put on life vests. Then he took out the yin-yang compass and observed the change in the needle. Xiao Ma was a little confused and asked irritably, "Can you find the water ghost by doing this?" Yi Xiaoyang said, "Of course I can. As long as it's within a certain range, the yin-yang compass can penetrate the ghostly energy and focus on its source, which is where the water ghost is." Xiao Ma said, "Isn't the water ghost a living thing? If you find it, at most it will swim to another place. What will you do then?" Yi Xiaoyang smiled faintly and said, "It can run away, but it's cave-dwelling. It can't run away. Attack its home first, don't let it return, and that's it." Cave? Underground. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at the yin-yang compass and explained, "A cave is where demons and ghosts live and cultivate. They choose a suitable place to build a cave, which takes at least several months to complete. Everything inside the cave is built using their cultivation, so the stronger the demon's cultivation, the larger the cave." Xiao Ma was startled and said, "A cave as large as a mountain cave. What's so difficult about finding it?" Yi Xiaoyang glanced at him and said, "A cave, not a mountain cave." Chapter 168. The Demon Boards the Boat. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Chu Jingru felt that Yi Xiaoyang was incredibly handsome at this moment. Momentarily stunned and nervous, her hands pressed against her chest, almost unable to breathe. Yi Xiaoyang stepped on the peachwood sword, leaping up, his long sword slashing to block the huge wave, causing the foam to gradually subside, leaving only a lingering aftershock more than a meter high, continuously crashing towards the boat. "Xiao Ma, quickly catch the attack," Yi Xiaoyang shouted without turning his head. "Understood." Xiao Ma, at the crucial moment, was not afraid either. He immediately spat a mouthful of saliva into his palm, gripped the shovel tightly, and continuously threw lime towards the wave crest. The two of them worked together to block the wave for a while, and the mountain-high wave was finally dispersed, leaving only a little aftershock less than half a meter high continuing to crash against the side of the boat. Thanks to the protective power of the Pichio seal, the boat remained completely undamaged, not a single drop of water spilled onto it. Xiao Ma breathed a sigh of relief, looking around but seeing no sign of Yi Xiaoyang. He immediately panicked, suddenly feeling the boat shake slightly. Looking down, he saw a hand clinging to the edge of the boat and climbing up. It was Yi Xiaoyang. At this moment, He was completely drenched. Xiao Ma asked in alarm, Xiao Yezi, why are you all wet? Yi Xiaoyang glanced at him. I fell into the water. Of course I'm wet. Xiao Ma scratched his head and said, weren't you riding the waves just now? Why did you fall into the water? That was just me borrowing the spiritual power of the Peachwood sword. Once it's used up, of course I'll fall into the water. I'm not a god who can fly and glide on water. Wow, you looked very much like a god then. Yi Xiaoyang looked left and right, then said, don't talk so much. The job isn't over yet. Now that we have the Pichio seal to suppress it, it won't be able to pierce the boat, but it can still capsize our boat, so we have to be very careful. Xiao Ma patted his head and said, I understand now. So the grassmouth vegetable washing, the thing the ghost girl mentioned, is using big waves to smash the boat. Yi Xiaoyang suddenly felt a surge of energy. With a sudden change in expression, completely ignoring Xiao Ma, he picked up the yin-yang compass from the boat's cabin, glanced at it, a slight smile playing on his lips. He looked up and said, the water demon's cave is below. I'll go down and take a look. You steer the boat back first. Xiao Ma was stunned. You didn't bring any diving equipment. How will you get down? I have my own way. Don't worry. Yi Xiaoyang reached into his belt and took out a coin, chanted a spell, and imprinted his divine consciousness onto the coin. Then he took out the Peachwood sword and handed it to Xiao Ma, instructing him, keep this coin safe. If you encounter any little ghosts or demons on the way back, just fight them directly. With the coin by your side, they won't be able to do anything to you. Go ashore and wait for me. After saying that, he took out a red bead, put it in his mouth, and walked to the side of the boat, quickly jumping into the water. Chapter 169. Entering the Cave Alone. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Damn it. Little Yezi isn't here. That's why you dare to scare me, right? I'm not afraid. I'll become a Taoist sooner or later. Besides, Little Yezi said that these creatures are mostly just subordinates of the water demon. A few insignificant little demons and monsters with no cultivation level can't possibly defeat me. Little Ma was thinking random thoughts to comfort himself. He took a deep breath, walked around the cabin to the other side, and heard a strange sound coming from inside the cabin, knowing that it was inside. Is it a ghost or a demon? What does it look like? After hesitating for a moment, Little Ma finally mustered some courage and lifted the curtain. A triangular-faced monster was grinning at him with its wide mouth. Its body resembled a toad, with two very long legs and toes spread out to the sides, squatting on the ground. Before Xiao Ma could get a good look, the monster immediately sprang forward, straddling him, its hands gripping his neck. At that moment, a beam of purple light suddenly shot out from Xiao Ma's pocket, striking the monster. The monster trembled and recoiled, causing Xiao Ma to slip, and both of them simultaneously fell backward into the boat's cabin. The full weight of Little Ma fell upon the monster, which couldn't withstand the pressure and let out a loud cry. It tried to break free, but before its limbs could even touch Little Ma's body, another beam of purple light shot straight at it, electrocuting it and rendering it too numb to move. Little Ma reached into his pocket and found a mother-shaped coin. He was startled. Little Yi hadn't lied to him. This was truly a valuable item. He looked at the grotesque, ferocious monster again, no longer finding it terrifying. He sneered. You're scared of just one coin? Just a little demon, a little ghost. Let's see how Little Ma subdues you. He pressed one hand down on the monster and, with the other, pulled out a stack of yellow talismans from his pocket. Lately, he had been practicing drawing earth-fire talismans, putting one away after another, planning to experiment with a series of them when he had time to see how many would actually work. Come on, brother, consider yourself unlucky, let's see. Little Ma threw a stack of earth-fire talismans at the monster, sticking one on its forehead, then closing his eyes and chanting an incantation, but it had no effect. He pulled it off and stuck another on its forehead, still no reaction. He stuck 7 or 8 more on it, but none of them worked. The monster was actually just afraid of the divine power of the mother coin, unable to resist, only able to stand there staring at Little Ma, not knowing what he was doing. If it knew it was being used as a guinea pig for Little Ma's magic, it would probably bite its tongue and commit suicide out of shame. I don't believe not even one will work. Xiao Ma, enraged, resolutely plastered the remaining dozens of talismans all over the monster, silently chanting a spell. With a loud boom, he opened his eyes wide and saw that about 3 to 4 talismans had burst into flames. He shook his head helplessly. After all his hard work drawing so many, he finally had a few usable ones. On the monster's body, the areas burned by the earth-fire talismans immediately withered, oozing foul-smelling black blood. In an instant, the entire monster's body was incinerated, black blood gushing everywhere. My first attempt wasn't bad, Xiaoma thought, comforting himself as he watched the pool of black blood gradually form on the boat's floor. Meanwhile, in the water demon's cave, Yi Xiaoyang threw a coin forward. With a ding. Chapter 170, The Heavenly Master's Card. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The Heavenly Master's Card is a legendary card of a Heavenly Master in the underworld. It is impervious to evil spirits and is immortal, therefore possessing many benefits. When a Heavenly Master dies, the card also vanishes and is then retrieved and stored by the underworld. Those capable of possessing the Heavenly Master's tablet mostly ascend to immortality, and before their death, they use their divine consciousness to engrave their most prized magical techniques or secret texts of the Yin and Yang realms onto the tablet, passing them down to their masters, future generations, or descendants. Some sects rely solely on a single Heavenly Master's tablet to pass down their magical arts for hundreds of thousands of years, making it incredibly precious, even surpassing top-tier magical artifacts. Mao Mountain and Longhu Mountain only have 3 Heavenly Master's tablets passed down to this day, considered their most prized treasures. When Yi Xiaoyang was a disciple on the mountain, he used one to visit the 3 founding masters, learning many secret texts from their divine consciousness, such as ghost hunting experiences and some specific forms and weaknesses of ghosts and demons. Yi Xiaoyang himself is also a Heavenly Master, but due to some reasons, he has not yet gone to the underworld to register his name, so he still does not have a Heavenly Master's tablet. You took this Heavenly Master's tablet from where? Yi Xiaoyang regained his composure and asked Meihua. Meihua smiled and said, I wouldn't dare lie to the Great Master. This Heavenly Master's token belonged to a Heavenly Master from 3,000 years ago who ventured alone into the ghost realm. When he passed by the river, he threw the token into the water, causing it to lie at the bottom of the river for thousands of years. Master Yi, you should know that for hundreds of thousands of years, no Taoist Heavenly Master has dared to go to the river. Therefore, this Heavenly Master must have possessed far greater magical power than other human Heavenly Masters, so his Heavenly Master's token is naturally extremely precious. Yi Xiaoyang acknowledged Meihua's words as true, secretly wondering why this Heavenly Master would throw his token into the river. Could it be that he had also been to that place, worried about not being able to return, and therefore reluctantly inscribed the untransmittable Taoist techniques and secret texts into the Heavenly Master's token and threw it into the river, leaving it for future generations with destiny? Thinking this, Yi Xiaoyang became even more intrigued. I'm fascinated by this Heavenly Master's talisman, Meihua continued. The Heavenly Master's talisman lay at the bottom of the river for over 1,000 years, unknown to anyone. Just when I was reborn as a ghost, I accidentally picked it up. Although it's useless to me, it's priceless to you, Great Master, so? Yi Xiaoyang understood her meaning and said, You intend to give me this, then cripple your own cultivation and return to the ghost realm so I can protect your life? Chapter 171, Raising the Corpse, 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. The village chief explained, This is where the leaders often stay when they come here to inspect the people. Normally, no one lives here, but there are people who clean it every day. Yi Xiaoyang nodded and said, Then I'll stay here. The village chief immediately arranged for people to clean the 2 floors of the building, change the bedding, and before leaving, he instructed the only service staff member, Wu Mei, to serve the distinguished guests well. Yi Xiaoyang and the other 2 were given the 3 best rooms in the guest house, each with a solar water heater. Yi Xiaoyang went to the bathroom to wash up and change clothes. then went to the living room and found that Xiao Ma and Zhou Jingru were already there. While Xiao Ma was still engrossed in studying the encyclopedia of Maoshan talismans, Yi Xiaoyang asked irritably, "Why are you so serious?" Xiao Ma replied, "I just killed a 1,000-year-old demon, and I'm overflowing with enthusiasm. Now I need to learn Maoshan Taoist magic well, so I can quickly become a heavenly master. You guys can talk about your love affairs. Just pretend I don't exist." Chu Jingru immediately blushed with embarrassment. Yi Xiaoyang chuckled, took a gold bar from his pocket, and tossed it onto the table, saying, "So, do you exist now?" Xiao Ma glanced at it and was instantly stunned, excitedly exclaiming, tossing the glittering gold bar in his hands, "Oh my God, it's real gold." "Of course it's real." Yi Xiaoyang took a pile of gold bars from his bag and placed them on the table, counting them. There were 13 ingots in total. Xiao Ma picked up one, examined it for a long time, and said, "One bar weighs about 2 taels, and 1 gram is 30 coins. I calculated, 1 bar must be at least 20,000 coins, so this pile must be over 200,000 coins in total. Damn, little Yi, you've struck it rich." Chu Jingru indifferently ignored the pile of gold, frowning as she asked Yi Xiaoyang, "Brother Xiaoyang, where did these gold bars come from?" Yi Xiaoyang briefly recounted his encounter with the female ghost in the cave, then said, "The female ghost is He-Ji, formed from the yin energy between the ghost realm and the miasma in the river water. She has profound abilities in the water and is very difficult to deal with. Fortunately, there's a formation binding her, preventing her from leaving the lake. Otherwise, everyone in this area would surely die." Yi Xiaoyang took out his phone and called Old Gua, telling him to come quickly because there was an urgent matter. As soon as he put down the phone, he saw Xiao Ma secretly watching. Chapter 172, Raising a Corpse, 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang heard this and said, "Then I'm sorry." Wu Mei waved her hand and said, "Don't be so polite. The village chief has assigned us to serve you well. As long as the reservoir can be restored to its previous state, what's a badger worth?" Yi Xiaoyang chuckled. This girl was too honest. She could say such things, yet it didn't offend anyone. Chu Jingru had a good impression of such a straightforward girl, so she pulled her to sit down and eat with them. Although there wasn't much food on the table, it was all local specialties, and Omai's cooking skills were excellent, so the three of them happily ate and drank to their heart's content. After the meal, Omai brewed a pot of tea for them and sat down to chat. Chu Jingru had a habit of drinking tea while eating snacks, but there were no snacks here. So she took out a few Ferrero chocolates from her handbag and shared them with everyone. After eating one, Omai praised it, saying, "Everything in the city is so good. Even the chocolate is so delicious, even better than the milk candy we sell in our village. How much is this chocolate, sister?" Chu Jingru thought for a moment and said, "I bought a whole box, so I'm not sure exactly, probably around 50 yuan a piece. I just bought it casually, it's not that expensive." Omai's eyes widened in surprise, and she almost spat out the chocolate. She exclaimed, "No way, a single chocolate is more expensive than a chicken?" Suddenly realizing that eating a piece of chocolate was equivalent to eating a whole chicken, she didn't dare swallow it. After a few sips of tea, Yi Xiaoyang suggested going to the reservoir for a while. He immediately called Li Laoxing and told him to come along, as he had a few questions he needed answered. Yi Xiaoyang returned to his room to prepare his magical artifacts. When he came out, he saw Chu Jingru standing in the living room, looking a little awkward. She frowned and said, "Brother Xiaoyang, I'm so sorry, but I have some urgent business at the company, so I have to go back and deal with it. I can't go with you." Yi Xiaoyang immediately indicated that it was no problem, because whether she was there or not didn't matter. Chu Jingru gave him a few instructions and concluded, "If you need money, just ask me." After Xiao Ma went out, the three of them walked out the door and met Wu Mei. Chu Jingru bid farewell to Wu Mei, then gave her a whole box of chocolates, which excited her immensely. According to local custom, Wu Mei had to give Chu Jingru 2 hens as a gift. Chu Jingru was caught between laughter and tears, unable to refuse the generous offer, so she pointed at Yi Xiaoyang and said, "Then give it to him when he leaves. It's the same whether you give it to him or to me." Wu Mei smiled. "I understand. You two are a couple." Chu Jingru was embarrassed, and Yi Xiaoyang cleared his throat twice. Chapter 173, Raising Zombies, 3. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Li Laoxing was terrified after hearing this. It can't be broken. That sorcerer said this stone is used to suppress zombies. If it's broken, the zombies will escape. Yi Xiaoyang smiled calmly and said, "Is this for suppressing zombies? It's clearly used to raise zombies." Li Laoxing said in astonishment. "But that's sorcerer." "What sorcerer?" Xiao Ma stood up indignantly and pointed at Yi Xiaoyang. "Let me tell you, the person standing in front of you is a Maoshan heavenly master. He's a shining star in the world of magic. In the world of magic, if he claims to be second, no one dares to claim to be first. Other mages are all trash in front of little Yi. Do you understand? Moreover, the mage you're talking about is clearly a fraud." Li Laoxing, who had previously witnessed Yi Xiaoyang's valiant battle with the water demon, couldn't disbelieve Xiao Ma's introduction. He immediately blushed and said nothing more. Yi Xiaoyang glared at Xiao Ma, reprimanding him for being so talkative in front of others, and said to Li Laoxing, "Could you help me call a few people over? And bring some digging tools along." Li Laoxing immediately called a village official to tell him to prepare, then hung up and said to Yi Xiaoyang, "I've already called the people. They'll be coming up the mountain now. Mr. Yi, will anything happen after we smash this rock?" Yi Xiaoyang said, "Every tree in this forest is arranged according to the 8 gates of the soul-fixing formation. The 8 gates are life, death, rest, injury." Then he turned his head and saw that the eyes of the other two were hazy and unfocused. Feeling a little discouraged, he waved his hand and said, "I won't go into detail about the 8 gates anymore. That pockmarked man used many pine trees to arrange the 8 gates soul-fixing formation, and in the middle he placed 2 cypress trees. Pine and cypress are originally 2 species of trees from the same family, and can be planted together, but this arrangement is extremely taboo. In feng shui, there's a proverb, "Pine meeting cypress, 100 deaths, the situation is ruined, feng shui is destroyed." If you bury the dead under 2 cypress trees, covering them to avoid sunlight, the corpse energy will accumulate and cannot dissipate. After the 77749-day mourning period, it will become a killing corpse. Furthermore, the mountainous terrain here happens to be right on the tip of the dragon tail 4 needles, the killing intent penetrating and spreading, becoming a small nest of evil spirits. There should have been a zombie causing trouble, but that guy diverted the stream's flow past the zombie, washing away its killing intent. Chapter 174, Raising the Corpse, 4. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang ignored him, drew a earth-fire talisman, and held it up above the female corpse's face. The hair covering the female corpse's face, which had just been exposed to fire, seemed to have a life of its own, and instinctively retracted. Yi Xiaoyang held the earth-fire talisman over the female corpse's face for a while longer to make the hair retract from her ears, nose, and mouth. Xiao Ma and the others immediately came closer to observe. Because of the hair covering her face, the female corpse's face was better preserved than her body. Not to mention how lifelike she looked, it was clear she was a beautiful woman when she was alive. "Sigh, what a pity," Xiao Ma sighed. Yi Xiaoyang squatted down beside the female corpse, opened her eyelids, and the group of people, including Xiao Ma, felt their scalps tingle at the sight. There were no eyeballs under her eyelids, only a tangled mass of hair. Yi Xiaoyang raised his eyebrows and immediately opened her mouth, only to find it also full of hair, like worms wriggling inside her mouth and crawling into the gaps between her teeth. This sight made everyone feel nauseous, almost causing them to vomit. Yi Xiaoyang checked the female corpse's nostrils and ears and found that hair had filled them completely. He said thoughtfully, "If I'm not mistaken, this is a type of hairman goo. Those afflicted by this goo will experience ingrown hair, meaning the hair on their entire body will grow inside the body instead of outwards." Upon hearing this, everyone exchanged bewildered glances. I dare not believe that such a bizarre love story could exist in this world. However, the truth is right before our eyes. We can't deny it. Xiao Ma whispered, hair growing inside. It must feel incredibly uncomfortable. Of course it's uncomfortable. Yi Xiaoyang continued. At first, it's incredibly itchy, but from the outside, nothing unusual will be visible. By the time the cursed person feels pain, their internal organs will have been pierced by the hair, and death is imminent. Yi Xiaoyang pointed to the female corpse in front of him and said, "Open her stomach and see if her internal organs are completely covered in hair." Xiaoma shook his head repeatedly. "No need to check, it's too brain-damaging. I already feel chills. If I look any more, I won't be able to eat for 3 days. Come on, guys, take a look. Does this girl look like the wife of Zhu Zi from our village who went missing?" A village official exclaimed upon seeing the female corpse. As soon as he finished speaking, the other village officials rushed forward, carefully examining the corpse's face. Finally, everyone concluded that she was the daughter-in-law of the Li family. Village head Li Laoxing sighed. This woman was from Baishanwang village. Chapter 175, Taking Blood. Asterisk This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Little Ma said. Then let's fight. What are we afraid of? It's not that I'm afraid, but I'm not confident. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at him and said, Maoshan techniques are mainly used to deal with demons and ghosts. They're not very effective against ancient techniques that affect living people. Otherwise, why wouldn't I be familiar with ancient techniques? Before he could finish speaking, Xiaoma pulled him aside and whispered, Why did you say all that? If it hurt you. Yi Xiaoyang silently glanced at Xiaoma. You're overthinking it. If ancient spirits had IQ and understood what people were saying, humanity would have become extinct long ago. Xiaoma was slightly surprised and said, Then why did it still run away from you? It's just an instinctive reaction. Isn't it true that if you encounter a pig, the pig will also run away from you? Xiaoma wiped his sweat and said, What kind of strange example is that? Why would a pig want to run away from me? Look at your body. How could a pig possibly run into a pig king? Damn it, why do you always tease me? Xiaoma said angrily. Yi Xiaoyang ignored him, lowered his head to look at the female corpse, truly not knowing what to do. He tried to recall all the Maoshan scriptures once again to find information related to ancient magic, then connected everything together, thinking of a not-so-bad solution. He looked up and said to Li Laoxing, Quickly find a way to investigate the female corpse's date of birth and find another girl with the same date of birth to bring directly here. Then, prepare a barrel of sesame oil for me. Li Laoxing nodded and asked, How much does the barrel weigh? 100-kilogram barrel used in floods. 100 kilograms of sesame oil. Li Laoxing was stunned. That's right, 100 kilograms of sesame oil and another 100 kilograms of honey. Bring them here as quickly as possible. Yi Xiaoyang smiled faintly. Don't be stingy at all. The water ghost in the reservoir might not come ashore, but the ancient spirits and female corpses here are like a time bomb. They could explode at any moment. Understood, understood. Li Laoxing immediately dispatched a village official to handle the matter. The rest stood waiting, and Xiaoma couldn't help but ask, What do you need sesame oil and honey for? The book says that honey and sesame oil are like water, but not water. When used to soak a corpse, they can prevent the ancient spirit from entering the internal organs and also prevent it from leaving the body. Let's try it once. I don't have time to guard here forever. Chapter 176. Killing Mao Ringu, 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang held Wu Mei's right hand, used his fingernail to cut her middle finger, then placed a bronze coin on the Shunmin acupoint on the female corpse's arm, used his fingernail to pierce the skin between her eyes, and then pulled Wu Mei's finger over to place it on the bronze coin. He also tied a red thread around her finger and the female corpse's finger. He took Wu Mei's hand and released a surge of vital energy, helping her guide the blood into the female corpse's body. This process took about a minute. Yi Xiaoyang felt Wu Mei's blood had entered the female corpse's abdomen, permeating the internal organs. He immediately released her hand, took a handful of ashes from his side, placed them on the wound on her wrist to prevent blood from leaking out, then pushed the female corpse down into the grave. He stood up, silently sighing in relief. The most crucial part of the plan had been successfully completed. Yi Xiaoyang pulled Wu Mei's hand and asked, "You lost quite a bit of blood. How do you feel?" "A little dizzy." Oh Mai shook her head and said, "But it's all right. We can have some chicken soup when we get back." "That's good then. We'll go back to the guest house to make some arrangements." "Brother Gua, I've given you the gold. Please wait here for us for a while." Old Gwen naturally didn't dare to object. Except for him, his husband's family and his maternal relatives voluntarily stayed on the mountain to guard, while the others quickly descended the mountain. Along the way into the village, Yi Xiaoyang was warmly welcomed by the villagers of Li family village on both sides of the road. Because several villagers had witnessed him catching a demon and then spread the word. One person told 10, 10 told 100. So now everyone knew he was a Maoshan heavenly master who had exterminated the evil spirit at the reservoir, and they were extremely excited and worshipped him. Several unmarried young women, seeing the young and handsome Maoshan heavenly master, immediately cast flirtatious glances and wanted to flirt with him. Two matchmakers kept chasing after Yi Xiaoyang, constantly saying they wanted to arrange a marriage for him. Yi Xiaoyang hurriedly ran into the guest house to hide. Finally, the village chief, with his strong voice, called in several burly men to guard the guest house entrance, preventing these people from causing trouble. Yi Xiaoyang wiped his sweat and said to Wu Mei, "Your villagers are really enthusiastic." Chapter 177, Killing Mao Ringu, 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. The female corpse was hit on the head with a shovel of white chicken manure. Immediately, her whole body was like being splashed with sulfuric acid, peeling off pieces of skin, revealing white joints, making people's hair stand on end. The female corpse immediately turned around, extending both hands to grab towards Yi Xiaoyang. Yi Xiaoyang remained calm. He used his right thumb to draw a bagua seal on his left palm, leaping up to evade the female corpse's hands. He slapped the female corpse's forehead with his left palm, and a purple light emanated from the gap between his fingers. Heaven and earth, profound and yellow, yin and yang wondrous methods, rise. Yi Xiaoyang chanted the incantation loudly, and at the same time, he pulled the female corpse towards the large pot. The female corpse's hands clung tightly to Yi Xiaoyang's arms and scratched with all her might, causing his arm to tremble. 10 bloodstains appeared on his hand. Yi Xiaoyang endured the pain and shouted at Xiao Ma, "Are you just going to stand there and watch? Quickly throw the white chicken manure." "Oh my God, I thought you could handle it alone," Xiao Ma muttered. "Okay, watch me." He grabbed the shovel, scooped up a pile of white chicken manure, and threw it straight at the female corpse. He missed, so he had to scoop up another shovel. This time, he aimed accurately and confidently threw the shovel again. The female corpse, who was running, suddenly exerted force, pulling Yi Xiaoyang back 2 steps, thus creating the tragic scene. The entire shovel of white chicken manure flew straight onto Yi Xiaoyang's head. The white chicken manure, of course, couldn't cause any harm to a living person like Yi Xiaoyang, but there's only one word to describe it: stinky. He felt as if a foul smell had entered his body through his mouth and nose, causing him to choke, his eyes turning black and tears streaming down his face. Yi Xiaoyang shook his head, brushing the white chicken droppings from his head onto the ground. A little bit fell on his face. He raised his right hand to wipe it off, but the stench intensified. "Damn it, I'll just ignore it," Yi Xiaoyang shouted, using his left hand to lift the female corpse, then stepped towards the large pot and gently released it, throwing the corpse into the pot. Chapter 178, Tai Sui. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang was startled upon hearing this, suddenly remembering something, so he told Zhu Zi to lead the way. The two hurried to the stream. Zhu Zi's wife's remains were placed on the stream bank, and from a distance, they could see a white object lying between the ribs and pelvis. It was round in shape, resembling a mushroom, or perhaps a bun, with a white interior. Its top was quite round, and the surface had some folds. "What is this? A mushroom?" Xiao Ma leaned closer to examine it, intending to reach out and touch it, but Yi Xiaoyang slapped his hand away. He glanced around, then turned to Old Gua and said, "Brother, do you recognize this treasure?" Old Gua frowned, observed for a moment, then smiled. It's a treasure. This is indeed a treasure. Xiaoma felt strange upon hearing this, and his heart was filled with curiosity. He shouted, "Stop being so mysterious. What exactly is this?" Yi Xiaoyang didn't answer, but picked up a sharp-edged stone at his feet and cut from the top of the object downwards. A stream of liquid immediately flowed out. A few seconds later, everyone saw the cut automatically heal. In less than 2 minutes, it had completely healed, with no trace of the cut remaining. "Wow!" Xiaoma exclaimed in alarm. "This thing has such strong regenerative power." Yi Xiaoyang didn't beat around the bush, pointing at the object and saying, "This thing is called Tai Sui, a type of flesh lingji mushroom, but much more precious than ordinary flesh lingji mushrooms. Its regenerative power is very strong. Even if you cut it, it will regenerate itself within a few days." Xiaoma patted his head and said, "I remember now. It was written about in our history books. I had a very deep impression of it back then. Historical records say that in ancient times, famine was widespread, and there was a place where this type of Tai Sui, one grew. Historical records call it gathering flesh. What else? It also says that even if you cut it, it can grow back, and you can harvest it endlessly. 1. Tai Sui, also called Tai Sui lingji mushroom, belonging to the flesh lingji, flesh mushroom, family. There are many different forms, but the common point is that they are all very precious. Their uses include healing wounds and improving health. Currently, according to Chinese media, the Tai Sui mushroom is more expensive than gold, with 1 gram costing $39,000. Most recently, a Tai Sui mushroom worth $1 billion was found. According to historical records, Tai Sui is a type of fungus that has existed since ancient times, with extremely strong growth, unaffected by freezing, sun exposure, or lack of water. Chapter 179, The Soul-Capturing Rope. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Old Gua nodded and said, "This is the chain that the demoness used. You told me to take it, and only then did I discover it was the soul-capturing rope." Yi Xiaoyang was stunned. The soul-capturing rope was a special underworld artifact forged from black steel and melted by the hellfire, and was also a weapon specifically used by demons. Demon envoys are assigned different weapons according to their rank, and those qualified to use the soul-capturing rope are not ordinary demon envoys. At the very least, they must be powerful demon messengers. Yi Xiaoyang immediately shook his head, saying, "That's impossible. That demoness is just a lowly demon. How could she have the soul-capturing rope? Does she have the ability to kill demon envoys? If so, she would have been eliminated long ago, and we wouldn't need to deal with her." Old Gua said, "I also find it strange. But think about it. If she didn't do that, where did this soul-capturing rope come from?" Yi Xiaoyang thought it made sense. The soul-capturing rope is like a police officer's gun to a demon envoy in the human world. Each one has one, and they absolutely cannot throw or discard it. Otherwise, the underworld will definitely investigate. Therefore, it's basically impossible for it to have been picked up or stolen. Yi Xiaoyang suddenly thought of the ghost card of the receiving goddess. His heart trembled. If it were just a soul-capturing rope, it could be explained, but with another ghost card added, the problem suddenly became complicated. That ghost woman absolutely didn't have such good luck, accidentally picking up both items from the ghost messenger, and she certainly couldn't have stolen them. So what is the real truth? As Yi Xiaoyang voiced his suspicions, Xiaoma immediately chimed in. "Did the ghost messenger give them to her?" Yi Xiaoyang glanced at him. "Did Xie Yuqing give you the police badge and the gun?" Xiaoma scratched his head, speechless. Old Gua said, "Little junior brother is right. There's definitely something wrong with this, but we have no clues, and even less a way to investigate. Let's deal with it later. Right now, we have to focus on the immediate task." "Yes, junior brother, this soul-capturing rope is a good item. Take it as a magical artifact." Yi Xiaoyang was stunned. He didn't want this at all, but the soul-capturing rope was forged from the hellfire, carrying the righteous energy of heaven and earth, and had a certain suppressive power over ghosts, demons, and evil spirits, which is why it qualified to be a magical artifact of the ghost messengers. Yi Xiaoyang held the soul-capturing rope and released a surge of righteous energy. Immediately, the righteous energy was absorbed by the chain, and a faint purple light appeared above it. Yi Xiaoyang was immediately tempted. The spiritual power of the soul-capturing rope was indeed far stronger than ordinary magical artifacts. Old Gua smiled and said, "Initially, it was heavily tainted with ghostly energy, but after I poured talisman water on it for several days, the ghostly energy has been completely eliminated. Junior brother, you can use it with peace of mind." Chapter 180. Something happened to Xie Yuqing. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang was silently suffering when suddenly his mobile phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was Chu Jingru calling. Chu Jingru said, "Brother Xiaoyang, are you awake yet? I'll send a car to pick you up." Yi Xiaoyang was stunned. "Pick us up? Where are we going?" Chu Jingru was surprised for a moment, then said somewhat sulkily, "Didn't you hand me to go swimming? I've already prepared my swimsuit. Don't you dare change your mind." "Swimming?" Yi Xiaoyang was even more confused. "When did I ask you to go swimming?" Chu Jingru said irritably, "Last night, Xiaoma called me and said you asked me to go swimming, but it wasn't convenient to talk, so he asked him to call for me. He also said I should invite Wang Ping along. The more the merrier." "Damn, so that's how it was." Yi Xiaoyang understood instantly. Xiaoma wanted to ask Wang Ping out for a swim, but was afraid she would refuse, so he resorted to using him as a front, calling Chu Jingru in his name to arrange a meeting and conveniently asking Wang Ping to join them. This guy really has no redeeming qualities. Of all things, he came up with such a harmful scheme. Chu Jingru remained silent, seemingly having figured something out, and said on the phone, "Brother Xiaoyang, don't tell me Xiaoma wants to ask Sister Ping out and is using your name. Sai, let's go too. Consider it a little relaxation, okay?" At this point, Yi Xiaoyang couldn't refuse anymore. He said he had nothing to do today, so he agreed. Chu Jingru happily thanked him and said she would send a car to pick him up. After hanging up the phone, Yi Xiaoyang turned around, tilted his head, and silently observed Xiaoma without saying anything. Xiaoma immediately became nervous and awkwardly said, "Little Yi, please don't hate me. I didn't mean to. I know I was wrong. Actually, I also gave you a chance to date. I was afraid you'd be embarrassed, so I didn't dare to pursue you proactively." Yi Xiaoyang sighed and said indifferently, "Still daring to make excuses? If you weren't pretending, I wouldn't want to beat you to death." Hearing this, Xiaoma panicked and had to tell the truth, pleading with him, "Little Yi, the rice is already cooked. You can't cancel halfway. You must go." Chapter 181. Absolutely do not let her die. 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. He was a celestial master, and from a great distance he could feel the death aura emanating from her, yet he still couldn't believe she was dead. He rushed to the stretcher, trembling as he extended his right hand, placing his thumb on her forehead, and released a surge of vital energy into her body to verify. He found that the vital energy in her body was slowly dissipating, showing no signs of life. In other words, she was dead. She was truly dead. Yi Xiaoyang's legs went weak, and he collapsed to the ground, staring blankly at Xie Yuqing's corpse. He couldn't believe that the girl who had constantly scolded him, mocked him, and opposed him was really dead. Suddenly, a pair of hands from behind pressed down on his shoulders, angrily shouting, "Catch this guy? He dared to attack a police officer. Wait a moment, wait a moment." Li Wei's voice rang out. He quickly broke through the crowd and ran over, yelling, "Don't cause a commotion. This is Yi Xiaoyang, Mr. Yi. Mr. Yi." The crowd was immediately astonished. These were all police officers from the criminal investigation team, subordinates of Xie Yuqing. Although they had never seen Yi Xiaoyang, they knew of his reputation. Hearing his name was like hearing thunder in their ears. A police officer immediately rushed forward, grabbing his arm without any manners, urgently saying, "Mr. Yi, I know you have magical powers. Please, quickly save Deputy Captain Xie." Yi Xiaoyang suddenly thought that the yang energy in Xie Yuqing's body hadn't completely dissipated yet, meaning the incident must have happened not long ago, and perhaps her soul was still nearby. "Can someone tell me what her birthday is?" Yi Xiaoyang asked, looking around at everyone. Although he was close to Xie Yuqing, he still didn't know her birthday. "You should try looking at her ID card," a police officer reminded him. Yi Xiaoyang regained his composure, hurriedly searched Xie Yuqing's bag, and finally found her wallet. He opened it and took out her ID card. April 21st, Chapter 182. Absolutely do not let her die. 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang took a bottle of 7-star herb from his backpack and gave it to Xiaoma, saying, "Spray it on her eyes and help me find Xie Yuqing's soul." Without a word, Xiaoma immediately sprayed the 7-star herb on his eyes and followed Yi Xiaoyang westward. Yi Xiaoyang, holding the 7-star dragon spring sword, braved the hardships, using the scabbard to support himself against the ground, overcoming all obstacles. He didn't mind his bare feet stepping on rocks or wild grass, completely forgetting the suffering around him. After walking for 4 or 5 miles, a towering mountain appeared in front of them, blocking the path. The cliff was incredibly steep and unbelievably steep, making it impossible to climb. Xiaoma pointed at it and said, "What do we do now? Take a detour. Let's see when we reach the foot of the mountain." Yi Xiaoyang sighed inwardly. This mountain was too unusual. If he continued heading west, he certainly wouldn't be able to climb it, but taking a detour was too far, and he didn't know when he would arrive. If he didn't find any clues by then, there was an 80% chance all hope was lost. But Xie Yuqing had only recently died. Her soul couldn't possibly have traveled that far. A gust of wind blew, and Yi Xiaoyang immediately stopped, sniffing excitedly. "I smell energy ahead." Having said that, he immediately used the Maoshan Lingkong step to run towards the energy. As they approached the foot of the mountain, the negative energy grew stronger. Yi Xiaoyang glanced around and saw 2 figures in a small grove of trees at the foot of the mountain, appearing and disappearing intermittently. Yi Xiaoyang looked closer. The 2 were one in front and one behind. The one in front was extremely tall, a blurry black shadow, while the one behind wore a police uniform, was slender, and walked with stiff steps, as if being dragged by the one in front. Who else could it be but Xie Yuqing? "It's Officer Xie, little Yi, we finally found her." Xiaoma breathed a sigh of relief and said excitedly. Yi Xiaoyang's expression became even more serious. If Xie Yuqing had been taken away by a ghost, he was 100% sure he could bring her back, but from the current situation, that black shadow was a ghost messenger. Ghost messengers taking souls was a matter of course. Even he, a celestial master, couldn't stop it. Yi Xiaoyang pulled Xiaoma over and said, "I can't proactively attack the ghost messenger. Later, you go over there and try to scold him. Do everything you can to make him angry. Once he attacks you, I'll have a reason to fight him." Chapter 183. Absolutely do not let her die. 3. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Hearing her voice, Yi Xiaoyang suddenly felt a pang of pain. The ghost messenger immediately angrily scolded. "Master Yi, what do you mean? This girl is already dead. Do you want to bring her back?" Xie Yuqing was extremely surprised upon hearing this, looked at the ghost messenger and then at Yi Xiaoyang, muttering, "I am dead." Yi Xiaoyang sighed and said, "Don't be afraid, I will find a way to save you." After death, when a person's soul realizes their death, they will know their destiny and understand many things about the great Tao of heaven and earth. Recalling the tragedy of her death, Xie Yuqing sighed weakly, saying, "That's right, I'm dead." At the same time, she understood many things. Raising her head, her eyes filled with despair but also calmness as she looked at Yi Xiaoyang, she smiled bitterly and said, "It's only been a few days since we last met, and now we're separated by life and death. Xiaoyang, go. Even though you're a celestial master, you can't defy fate. Just seeing you after death is enough happiness for me." Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand. "Don't talk nonsense. Just stay there and wait for me to take you back." Xie Yuqing was stunned. A glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes, but quickly vanished. She sighed softly, thinking that a person's lifespan is determined by heaven. If their lifespan is over, Yi Xiaoyang can't do anything. Was he planning to stop the cycle of reincarnation? No, absolutely not. Yi Xiaoyang looked at the ghost messenger and said, "Please, messenger, help me check her lifespan. If it's truly over, I'm willing to exchange 30 years of my lifespan for hers." Xie Yuqing was stunned upon hearing this and quickly exclaimed, Yi Xiaoyang, what nonsense are you talking about? The ghost messenger was also surprised and said, what is she to you that you're willing to exchange her life for hers? She's my friend. She died helping me, so I have to bring her back. The ghost messenger chuckled and said, since you're willing to exchange lives, I won't object. However, my responsibility is to capture her. If you really want to save her, go find the judge. Yi Xiaoyang thought for a moment and said, I'll go with you to the underworld. Then please wait a few days, sir. There are several people waiting for me to guide souls within a dozen miles. The journey is long and arduous. It might take 3. Chapter 184. Absolutely do not let her die. 4. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Little Ma heard Yi Xiaoyang say this and was momentarily confused, not understanding what was happening. Although Xie Yuqing had become a ghost and knew many things, she still couldn't know the secrets of others, nor could she know the affairs of a ghost messenger with profound cultivation. Both of them looked at Yi Xiaoyang in astonishment, waiting for his explanation. Yi Xiaoyang shrugged and said, what? You don't want to admit it? The ghost messenger slightly lowered his head, narrowed his eyes, and looked at Yi Xiaoyang with a cold, dangerous gaze, saying, my ghost card and soul-catching rope have been stolen. I want to ask, where did you get them from? Oh, are you going to blame me? Yi Xiaoyang chuckled. The soul-capturing rope was obtained from the hands of the Yin, receiving goddess. Could she possibly have the ability to steal your soul-capturing rope? And if that were the case, why are you still so kind as not to ask about it? Yi Xiaoyang shook his head, pointing a finger at him, and coldly said, if I'm not mistaken, you are the true form of that demon subordinate, or more accurately, you are the 4th demon in the 5-demon mountain formation. As soon as the words left his mouth, the demon messenger's body trembled, staring at Yi Xiaoyang in disbelief. Yi Xiaoyang smiled and said, don't look at me like that. I've known all this for a long time. Firstly, the 3 demons I encountered here have been dead for over a year, but no one came to guide their souls, so I wondered where the demon messengers had gone. When I discovered the 5-demon mountain formation, each of the 4 needle dragon tail formations had a demon guarding it, and the 7-old demon temple was located right on the dragon's back. Of course, there's also a demon guarding the place, and moreover, it's a demon born from the underworld. So I thought, the 4th demon must be the subordinate demon of the 7 old demons. Then I killed the underworld reincarnation goddess, and she was holding a demon token and a soul-capturing rope in her hand, but still no one from the underworld came looking for me. I thought about it over and over, and there was only one possibility. These 2 items weren't stolen or picked up by her, but were given to her by a demon messenger. Only in this way could she have concealed them from the underworld. The previous matter doesn't need to be discussed anymore. You don't have the demon token and the soul-capturing rope, which proves you are the subordinate demon of the 7 old demons, and you are the one who set up the 5-demon mountain formation. After hearing Yi Xiaoyang's words, the demon messenger slowly regained his composure, reached out and grabbed Xie Yuqing's neck, looked at Yi Xiaoyang, his eyes showing admiration, and slowly said, I'm truly impressed. I've been hiding for so long, yet I couldn't fool you, Yi Xiaoyang. Chapter 185. The 7th grandmother appears. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. A beautiful figure quickly flew towards him from the dark clouds. Yi Xiaoyang looked up and saw a girl with an exquisite face, wearing a crimson robe, sleeves fluttering in the eerie wind, her long black hair styled in a very unusual bun, the hem of her robe falling from both shoulders, fluttering gently. She slightly bowed her head, her eyes filled with sorrow, and in an instant she approached him. She didn't seem to be flying. Her bare, white feet were merely treading on the air, as if she were strolling. Little Yi, is that the 7th grandmother? Xiaoma whispered, wondering why Yi Xiaoyang kept calling her grandma and old demon, knowing she was the mastermind. He had already imagined her as an old, ugly woman with gray hair, never imagining she was such a beautiful ancient woman. Was she really Grandma 7? Yi Xiaoyang ignored him, gripping the 7-star dragon spring sword tightly in both hands. Standing up, and looking up at the proud beauty amidst the clouds, asking, "Grandma 7?" The woman slowly lowered her head, looked at him, and slightly parted her luscious red lips, saying, "Did you kill him?" Her voice was incredibly clear and gentle, like the sound of nature. Yi Xiaoyang shrugged, silently accepting it. The woman sighed. "I know you're a Maoshan heavenly master, but you'll die soon. The next time we meet, I'll definitely make sure you die a gruesome death, definitely." As the woman spoke the last sentence, her voice instantly turned venomous, her eyes turned red, and her whole body emitted an extremely demonic aura. Yi Xiaoyang smiled faintly. "You are just a wisp of divine consciousness. Don't pretend. I will find you. Then we'll talk." He swung his hand and struck a spirit-slaying talisman against the woman's forehead. The woman let out a soft cry, her figure slowly dissipating, and then the dark clouds gradually disappeared, the sky brightening again, as if nothing had ever happened. Xiaoma finally breathed a sigh of relief and asked Yi Xiaoyang, "Was that Granny 7 just now?" Yi Xiaoyang nodded. Xiaoma was shocked. "Then why were you able to destroy her so quickly?" "It was just a wisp of divine consciousness. It had no offensive power." Xiaoma said, "Oh," and added, "Honestly, Granny 7. She's so beautiful. Her appearance can be compared to a fairy." "She's a demon, not a fairy." Yi Xiaoyang coldly smiled and said, "Now do you understand why the ghost messenger was so infatuated with her?" Xiaoma turned his head to look at the spot where the ghost messenger had been standing. There was nothing there. He spat on the ground with a puffed, saying, "He was as ugly as a ghost. If Grandma 7 liked him, then I must be blind." Yi Xiaoyang said, "Whether she liked him or not, I don't know, but it's true that Grandma 7 cared deeply for the ghost messenger, even sacrificing a portion of her cultivation to break through the seal with her divine consciousness to come here to bid him farewell one last time." Hearing him say this, Xiaoma suddenly remembered something and asked, "Oh right, little Yi, why didn't the ghost messenger's soul and spirit transform into a spirit after you?" Chapter 186, Coming Back to Life. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Everyone immediately crowded around, their eyes wide, holding their breath and staring intently at Xie Yuqing. Suddenly, her eyelids twitched, and 2 seconds later, they slowly opened. Her stomach also began to rise and fall with her breathing, and she exhaled a breath. "Why are you looking at me?" "Get away," being stared at by more than a dozen people, the vast majority of whom were men. Xie Yuqing felt a little embarrassed and raised her hand to cover her face. That action proved that she was completely fine. It's unclear who started clapping, but the whole crowd immediately joined in, half congratulating Xie Yuqing and half dedicating their applause to Yi Xiaoyang. Li Wei clapped and smacked his lips, looking at the wide-eyed, open-mouthed forensic doctor. "Brother, I told you so. Master Yi has saved her life." The forensic doctor suddenly recovered his senses, pushed through the crowd, and rushed to Xie Yuqing's side. He felt the back of her neck, then checked her breathing and pulse, his mouth widening even more as he muttered, "She's alive. It's impossible, absolutely impossible." He grabbed Yi Xiaoyang's hand and excitedly said, "Kid, how did you save her?" Yi Xiaoyang shrugged and said, "What do you mean saved? She wasn't dead, she was just in a coma. A little excitement, and she'll wake up. If you don't believe me, ask them." After saying that, he turned and glared at the police. The police immediately understood. They were police officers, and they absolutely couldn't reveal anything. Spreading superstitious ideas, and besides, why bother investigating why someone woke up when they've already regained consciousness? Finally, a brave police officer stepped forward and said, "That's right, Officer Xie isn't dead, she's just in a coma. Mr. Yi used a secret method to awaken her. Isn't that right, everyone?" "Yes, yes, yes." Everyone responded in unison. Only the forensic doctor remained bewildered. "No, no. She's clearly dead. This young man must be a miracle doctor, possessing some secret technique to bring her back to life." Before he could finish speaking, he was pushed out by the rushing police officers. Xie Yuqing ordered her subordinates to leave first, and then Chu Jingru also had Li Wei lead the astonished bodyguards away. "Everyone who came here today will receive a reward of 500 yuan, and they mustn't speak carelessly. Li Wei immediately agreed and led the group away. Xie Yuqing, having been resurrected, still clearly remembered the memories of her soul being taken away earlier. She looked up at Yi Xiaoyang and weakly said, "You saved me again." Yi Xiaoyang shrugged. "This time it doesn't count. You worked for me, and you died unjustly, so of course I have to save you." Xie Yuqing said, "If I hadn't worked for you and died, would you have saved me? Of course, we're good friends." Xie Yuqing chuckled, speechless. "Brother Xiaoyang, hurry up and put on your clothes." Suddenly, Chu Jingru spoke up. Chapter 187. The Ice Silkworm Saves Its Master. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang said, "It's normal. After death, when a person's soul becomes aware of their death, they will understand some of the great principles of heaven and earth. It's just that now that she has returned to the mortal world, she will naturally forget what belongs to the secrets of heaven. Let's avoid her revealing those secrets." Xie Yuqing seemed to understand and nodded. The police car arrived at the hospital gate. Xie Yuqing led everyone through the gate. As soon as they went upstairs, the three of them saw a group of doctors and nurses rushing down the stairs in a chaotic mess. The oldest among them exclaimed excitedly, "This is a medical miracle, the strangest thing in the history of biology. Quick, quick, call the institute. No, call the biology department. Hurry up." As Yi Xiaoyang and the others ran up to the second floor, they saw many police officers guarding the outside of the ward. A police officer stepped forward to stop them. Seeing Xie Yuqing, he was stunned, muttering, "Deputy Captain Xie, are you all right? Don't talk nonsense. Where's Miss Tan?" "She's inside, but..." The officer scratched his head. "Miss Tan is a little strange. Her whole body is covered in fine hair." Hearing this, everyone was shocked and quickly went into the room. They saw a hospital bed with a person covered in white hair. Yi Xiaoyang bent down to look. Tan Yuqing was covered in a thin, transparent layer of white hair and simultaneously emitted a cold aura. Observing further, Yi Xiaoyang saw that the hairs looked very much like they were growing from her body. He thought to himself, no wonder the doctors were so agitated, thinking it was something strange. In fact, Yi Xiaoyang knew that those white hairs were silk spun by the ice silkworm. Tan Xiaowei lay quietly on the bed, her face showing a hint of pain. Yi Xiaoyang looked again and saw a wisp of black energy emanating from under her skin, then being absorbed by the hairs, turning into a faint smoke. At the same time, the silkworm's silk, unable to withstand the corrosion, gradually disappeared, and then another strand of hair grew. Chapter 188. The True Identity of the Demon Messenger. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. That hair on your body. Tan Xiaowei glared at the young doctor, who immediately scratched his head, looked at the hospital director, and said, "This." The director stepped forward to observe Tan Xiaowei and interjected, "Miss, we would like to check your condition a little. Is that all right?" "No need. I'm being discharged." After speaking, Tan Xiaowei walked straight towards the elevator without looking back. Chu Jingru rushed to support her, and Yi Xiaoyang also hurried after her. The old hospital director impatiently chased after them to the elevator door. "Girl, your condition is unstable right now. Don't go yet. At most, we'll treat you for free." Tan Xiaowei closed the elevator door without hesitation, breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "I'm not crazy. I wouldn't go and become your guinea pig." Chu Jingru called a car to take Tan Xiaowei to a nearby hotel, and Yi Xiaoyang and Xie Yuqing followed. Chu Jingru generously booked a VIP room, furnished with extremely luxurious and opulent interiors, making Yi Xiaoyang tremble at the sight. As soon as everyone sat down, two beautiful women with stunning figures came to make tea for them. Chu Jingru invited everyone to enjoy a tea ceremony to relax their minds and bodies. Yi Xiaoyang was seeing the art of tea ceremony for the first time, so he found it very novel. However, the two beautiful women were also very attractive, so he couldn't help but glance at them. Xie Yuqing saw this and said, "Hey, what are you looking at? What's it to you?" Yi Xiaoyang glared at her irritably, thinking that if he shouted like that, everyone would hear. Xie Yuqing snorted and said, "I'm not used to seeing you being a lecher. Yi Xiaoyang was extremely annoyed, wanting to say, "You're not my wife, and I have no intention of marrying you. So why should you care whether I'm a lecher or not?" However, he was afraid of being beaten, so he didn't dare say it. After the tea was brewed, the two beautiful women each served a cup. Chu Jingru gave each of them 100 yuan tip, then told them to leave and invited everyone to enjoy the tea. Yi Xiaoyang took a sip, finding it quite ordinary, nothing special about it. "Oh right, where's Xiao Ma?" Yi Xiaoyang suddenly remembered he hadn't heard Xiao Ma's voice. He turned around to look for him, but couldn't find Xiao Ma, and even less so Wang Ping. Suspicious, he asked the two of them. Chapter 189, Blood Goo Corpse King. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang said, "It's not a risk. I didn't know it was faking it, and I could only use this method. Should I let it take you away? Besides, I'm confident my sword strike was perfectly timed and fast. As long as Xiao Ma doesn't mess things up, I'm sure I can save you. What if it fails?" Yi Xiaoyang smiled. "If it fails, I'll bury it with you." Xie Yuqing grumbled, "I don't want to be buried with it." "All right, you still haven't answered my previous question. Why did the ghost messenger kill us instead of others?" Yi Xiaoyang thought for a moment and said, "This is just speculation. First, it was severely injured by me last time and has been recovering, only recently recovering a little. Secondly, its purpose is to complete the 5 Ghost Mountain formation, not to become a vicious demon, and it doesn't need to kill people. It's very shrewd, knowing that killing a few individuals wouldn't benefit it and would only make it easier to expose itself, so it drew my attention to it, thus causing me to miss my own opportunity." Hearing this, Tan Xiaowei said, "That's right. I investigated and found out that it's always in the 7 Grandmothers Temple, accumulating evil energy through the 5 Ghost Mountain formation and then transmitting it to the 7 Grandmothers. That's its main task. Killing people is the job of other demons. It doesn't need to kill anyone." Hearing this, Yi Xiaoyang knew that Tan Xiaowei definitely knew a lot of things and quickly asked, "You haven't told me yet. Xiaoru said you went to investigate Jin Shuai's whereabouts. When did you return, and why did you go to the 7 Grandmothers Temple first?" Tan Xiaowei pondered for a moment, looked at Yi Xiaoyang, and said, "I'll tell you when I have time. Let me tell you about my pursuit of Kim Soai. I found his location. However, with my abilities, I haven't been able to catch him yet, so I came back to find you." Hearing her say she had found Kim Soai, Yi Xiaoyang was immediately excited, but someone was even more excited than him. Xie Yuqing and Zhou Jingru asked in unison, "Where is he?" Tan Xiaowei sighed softly and said, "Zirin Gorge." Everyone immediately felt a chill. Just hearing that name, they knew it wasn't a good place. Yi Xiaoyang said in a low voice, "Where is Zirin Gorge?" "Southern border, 10,000 Great Mountains." Yi Xiaoyang frowned. "You mean the border between the 3 counties of Yunnan, Guizhou, and Sichuan, 1, and the 10,000 Great Mountains? You're not joking, are you? 1, Yunnan, Guizhou, and Sichuan, abbreviation for the 3 provinces of Yunnan, Guizhou, and Sichuan." Tan Xiaowei said, "You saved my life, and I don't want to deceive you. Kim Soai is a descendant of our great witch immortal family. He is my great-uncle, but he is a blood witch wanted by the family. His whereabouts are unknown. When I returned to Sichuan, I investigated a little. In short, I determined that he had fled into the Dead Man's Gorge, too." Yi Xiaoyang thought about it and found Tan Xiaowei's words very logical. Jin Shuai knew he was wanted by the Shurqing police, and he was blind in one eye, so he didn't have money for plastic surgery, so the only way was to flee. Yi Xiaoyang had also guessed that he would flee, but he didn't expect Jin Shuai to dare to abandon everything, crossing through layers of pursuit to run to the remote 10,000 Great Mountains. Where is the Dead Man's Gorge you mentioned? Chapter 190, The True Heart Goo. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Tan Xiaowei understood his meaning and said, "A kind of half-corpse, half-demon monster. Don't ask me what it looks like. I've never seen it. Some say the Blood Goo Corpse King is an ancient goo master of theirs buried underground, requiring very strong spiritual power to open. It hasn't been opened in decades." Yi Xiaoyang felt frustrated upon hearing this, shaking his head and saying, I really don't believe there could be such a coincidence. I encounter everything like this. Tan Xiaowei said, it's not a coincidence. It's all just one thing. Because in the places where you hunted Jin Shuai, before escaping, he withdrew some of the spiritual power from the 5 Ghost Mountain formation and returned to the Valley of the Dead to revive the Blood Goo Corpse King. Jin Shuai withdrew spiritual power. Of the 5 demons, Yi Xiaoyang was utterly shocked. How do you know so much? Tan Xiaowei's face showed hesitation. After thinking for a moment, she decided to say, a few days ago, we ambushed Jin Shuai in the mountains and fought him, but he escaped. However, a friend of mine cast the heart-tonguing goo on him, and from that, we learned some things he kept hidden deep within his heart. However, this act of casting the goo is not very honorable for us white witches, so I don't want to mention it. Chu Jingru couldn't help but interject. What is the heart-tonguing goo? It's a type of goo that can force someone to reveal everything in their heart through their tongue, hence the name heart-tonguing goo. Oh my God! Chu Jingru pressed her hand to her chest, saying incredulously, there are such unbelievable things in this world. Tan Xiaowei laughed and said, there are even more unbelievable things in ancient magic, like the Tongxin goo, which can make the person you like fall in love with you. Do you want to learn it? Chu Jingru was stunned, instinctively glancing at Yi Xiaoyang, suddenly realizing she had revealed something. She reacted quickly, smiling at Yi Xiaoyang and saying, Brother Xiaoyang, you should learn it. You can use it later if you like a girl. Yi Xiaoyang stroked his chin. I don't need tricks to woo girls, I just need to stand still. The 3 girls couldn't help but laugh. Cough cough. Let's get to the main point. Yi Xiaoyang felt he was exaggerating a bit. What benefit would those blood sorcerers gain from releasing the Corpse King? Tan Xiaowei said, they would get the blood of the sorcerer demon. Humans absorb the sorcerer demon's blood, mixing it with their own blood, making their ancient sorcery several times more effective. Furthermore, with the sorcerer demon's blood as a conduit, they can cultivate some forbidden sorcery, though I'm not entirely sure of the specifics. Yi Xiaoyang shook his head, saying, what kind of society is this? There are people so insane. Tan Xiaowei sighed softly. Not only insane, but terrifying. I heard from the elders in my family that last time the Blood Corpse King was resurrected, a blood sorcerer obtained the sorcerer demon's blood. Chapter 191. Preparing to depart. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang pondered for a moment and then said, I still have a few questions I don't understand. First, who set up the 5 elements in severing formation in the temple that could seal the 7 old demons so tightly, preventing them from taking even a single step out of the temple? Second, where is her cave dwelling? Tan Xiaowei said, I don't know who set up the seal, but the formation seems to use the 7 old demons' demon blood, and also uses her power to seal herself. The stronger her cultivation, the greater the sealing power, so if she wants to escape, she can only borrow power from the outside, which is to gather evil energy from the 5 Ghost Mountain Crossing formation. When she reaches a certain level of strength, she can break through the seal. Yi Xiaoyang was a little surprised. It turned out he had guessed wrong. The old demon collected evil energy not for cultivation, but to break formations. A rumor he had heard about the 7th grandmother suddenly came to mind, and it seemed it was probably true now. The 7th grandmother and that sorcerer must have had some kind of contract with each other, which is why she reluctantly offered her demon blood to seal herself. This clearly shows that if she had been captured, the sorcerer wouldn't have necessarily needed to obtain the demon blood. He could have just killed her directly. You still haven't told me where her cave is? Yi Xiaoyang asked Tan Xiaowei. Tan Xiaowei smiled helplessly. Master Yi, I'm not omnipotent. I don't know where her cave is either. Yi Xiaoyang scratched his head awkwardly. Tan Xiaowei had given him so many clues that he felt like she knew everything. However, in Jin Shuai's mind, there's this information. To ensure the safety of the secret, fearing attack from outsiders, he used his own blood to leave a mark outside the 7 old demons' cave. Even if someone finds the cave, without his blood, they can't break the seal. Yi Xiaoyang was surprised. So, we absolutely have to find him? Tan Xiaowei nodded. Finding him is also finding the cave. Okay, when do we start? The sacrificial ceremony will be held in about a week. They are currently patrolling the mountain. Even if we arrive early, it's useless. Besides, I'm waiting for another helper, who should arrive tomorrow. Then we'll set off. Chapter 192. Little Rat, Little Ox Slaughter Knife. ***. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Little Rat, Little Ox Slaughter Knife. Ox slaughter knife is a knife used to slaughter cattle. Little rascal is an apprentice. This phrase means someone with rudimentary abilities who still tries to show off their skills, making a big deal out of small tasks. Similar to the saying, using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. The two were gone for several days without returning. The house remained unchanged, except for one thing that had just appeared after their absence. Energy. Why is it so cold? Little Ma immediately hugged himself tightly as soon as he entered the door, turning his head to look at the tightly closed window, where not even a breeze could get through. That's energy, Yi Xiaoyang said. Energy? Xiao Ma was stunned, then suddenly slapped the back of his head. I understand now. You said before that if a room is left unoccupied for a long time, it will gradually accumulate negative energy, right? Yi Xiaoyang sneered. We've only been gone a few days, and there's already so much negative energy accumulated. Isn't that strange? This is supernatural. There's a ghost in our house. Xiao Ma was immediately dumbfounded, nervously looking around and asking, where's the ghost? Is it the 7 old demons, or He-Ji? Yi Xiaoyang rolled his eyes and said, You're thinking too much. It's just an ordinary passing ghost. No way. What would an ordinary ghost be doing in our house? Because I haven't been home for several days. Yi Xiaoyang stepped inside, annoyed. I want to see which blind demon dares to make a nest here. Xiao Ma pulled him aside, smiling mysteriously. Little Yi, leave this one to me. This is a chance for me to hone my courage. Yi Xiaoyang frowned at Xiao Ma. Are you sure? Sure. Didn't I already say I want to cultivate the Tao? Leave these little demons to me. I'll use the Earth Fire Talisman to deal with them. Yi Xiaoyang casually tossed a few coins arranged in the shape of a plum blossom onto the bed, setting up the simplest formation to seal his and Xiao Ma's energy so the demon couldn't see or hear them. The Earth Fire Talisman isn't the main method for catching demons. Let me teach you the simplest hand seal that can deal with little demons and spirits. Look at my hand. Chapter 193. The Demon in the Septic Tank. ***. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The demon knew it had encountered something formidable, and a tough one at that, so it immediately knelt down, bowed its head, clasped its hands, and begged for mercy. Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand. Speak. What is your background, and what did you do in the human world? Great Master, please judge fairly. I am Chen Shushi, a university student. 3 years ago, I was murdered, Chen Shushi said, wiping away tears. After I died, I didn't remain in the human world but went to the underworld to serve as a ghost, waiting for reincarnation. Today is my death anniversary. General Niu granted me permission to return to the human world for 1 day to enjoy the incense offerings. Great Master, this is my ghost token. As it spoke, it reached into its belly and pulled out a green wooden plaque, respectfully handing it to Yi Xiaoyang. Yi Xiaoyang picked it up and examined it. It was indeed a ghost card. He then returned it to the boy. Little Yi, he's not a ghost messenger. So why does he have a ghost card? Xiao Ma, standing beside him, asked with a troubled expression. Ghost cards. Yi Xiaoyang said, Ghost cards are just a general term. There are many types of ghost cards. This green wooden board is a ghost card given to ghosts when they come to the mortal world, to prevent them from being mistaken for evil spirits by sorcerers and having their souls shattered. That would be very troublesome. After saying that, Yi Xiaoyang asked Chen Shushi, How did you die? Chen Shushi immediately showed a troubled expression, hesitated for a moment, and then said, I'm from the countryside. While defecating, I was pushed into a cesspool and drowned in the cesspool. Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma looked at each other, speechless. Why did the murderer push you into the cesspool? Chen Shushi said, Because our two families had a conflict, and the story is very long. After I died, the murderer paid for his crime, so I won't mention it again. Yi Xiaoyang nodded and said, Then what are you doing at my house? Chen Shushi was a little embarrassed and said, Because I was waiting. My family was burning paper money, and when I passed by here, I smelled something foul in the toilet, so I really didn't know it was the house of a great sorcerer. Yi Xiaoyang suddenly understood, turning his head to look at Xiao Ma irritably. Did you go to the toilet before leaving the house? I think I peed first, then you rushed me so much that Xiao Ma stammered. Damn, not flushing the toilet, and even closing the lid, letting it ferment in urine for several days. It would be strange if it didn't attract a toilet ghost. Yi Xiaoyang was so impressed with Xiao Ma that he wanted to kneel down. Then why did you want to scare me? Chapter 194. Falling into a Trap. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Note before reading. Translating stories is very tiring and time-consuming. Everyone has their own daily work and life. Translating stories for you to read for free is purely out of passion and enjoyment, not a responsibility or obligation. Therefore, I request everyone to respect the translator. Any abusive behavior, such as demanding the translator release new chapters quickly, is strictly prohibited. I will ban all comments of this type. Yi Xiaoyang shone his flashlight over his shoulder and meticulously observed. 2 blood vessels at the elbows were slowly crawling up his shoulders, forming 2 abstract-looking patterns, resembling a pair of insect legs lying prone on his shoulders. However, what worried Yi Xiaoyang even more was that they seemed to be trying to pierce through the skin, making him feel as if his body was about to crack. A burning pain, centered on the blood vessels, spread throughout his body. Then, a sudden chill arose, counteracting the burning pain. Yi Xiaoyang knew this was the ice silkworm blood of Tan Xiaowei in his saliva fighting against the ancient spirit in his body. In just a moment, both sensations disappeared. Yi Xiaoyang lowered his head and looked again. The strange pattern had slowly faded beneath his skin, and the bloodline was gradually disappearing. However, it was located at the Tianfu acupoint. Not long ago, it had only reached his elbow, so why had it spread so quickly? Yi Xiaoyang was extremely surprised. Now the bloodline had spread to the Tianfu acupoint. Next would be the Jianjing acupoint. Then it would break through 2 other acupoints, spreading to his heart. Yi Xiaoyang slowly took a deep breath. Facing matters concerning his life, it would be a lie to say he felt no pressure. Yi Xiaoyang comforted himself. Regardless of whether the bloodline spread to his shoulder, as long as he could capture Jin Shui and Sichuan this time, he would definitely find a way to break the curse. But what if it fails? No, it can't fail. It absolutely can only succeed. Yi Xiaoyang recited the tranquility mantra once, then drifted off to sleep. Having been away for many days, Yi Xiaoyang had planned to sleep in a little longer, but unexpectedly, he was woken up by the phone ringing at 8 o'clock the next morning. Looking at the number, Li Duo's name immediately appeared. This kid hadn't contacted him for days, and today he suddenly called to cause trouble. Could something have happened? As soon as he answered, Li Duo's sobbing voice came from the other end. Brother Xiaoyang, I've encountered a ghost. Please come and save me. Yi Xiaoyang was stunned. What? Where are you? I can't explain clearly over the phone. I'm at the school stadium. Brother Xiaoyang, please come and save me, hurry. Chapter 195, A Showdown. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Zhang Xiao'er waved her finger at Yi Xiaoyang. Don't be self-conscious. Martial arts are something that elevates talent. Besides, you showed very good fighting skills before, so today I called the martial arts students here to spar with you. I guarantee I won't hurt you. What are you afraid of? Hearing this, Yi Xiaoyang realized even more that Zhang Xiao'er was a complete lunatic. He felt extremely annoyed, thought for a moment, and said, Tell me, how will you let me go? A martial arts contest. If I lose, I'll make you the head of the martial arts club. Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand, not interested. The surrounding martial arts students immediately gasped, some even rubbing their fists, glaring angrily at Yi Xiaoyang. If it weren't for Zhang Xiao'er's strict management, preventing anyone from interfering, someone would have already jumped out to lecture Yi Xiaoyang. If you lose, you must join the martial arts club and listen to my teachings, Zhang Xiao'er said. Yi Xiaoyang looked at her. Do you really want to fight? Of course, do you think you can escape? Yi Xiaoyang shook his head, saying very seriously. I'll repeat it again, I don't want to fight you. You forced me. You wouldn't let me leave until I lost, so I had no choice but to win. Think about it. In front of so many people, if you lose, you'll lose face. Don't blame me then. As soon as he finished speaking, several people glared at him angrily. A tall, dark, and muscular young man, like a boxer, stepped forward, pointed at Yi Xiaoyang, and said, "Captain, why pretend like that? Why talk to him? Let me do it. I guarantee I won't beat him to death." "Get lost." Zhang Xiaoer immediately cursed, then looked at Yi Xiaoyang, began to perform a taekwondo move, and said, "Come on." Yi Xiaoyang chewed on the bun in his mouth, handed the remaining bun and soy milk to Xiao Ma, smacked his lips, looked at Zhang Xiaoer, and repeated, "Come on." Seeing his contemptuous attitude, Zhang Xiaoer was extremely angry. However, she thought about how difficult it had been to get him to fight, and now, if they continued, he would have a chance to escape. She didn't know where to find him then, so she relaxed her whole body, jumped forward, and kicked with a split leg. Yi Xiaoyang dodged, and she threw another kick. Yi Xiaoyang dodged again, and Zhang Xiaoer continued with yet another kick, this one incredibly powerful, staring intently at Yi Xiaoyang. Chapter 196. Taking on a Disciple. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Zhang Xiaoer blushed, wanting to cry. Because even though her personality was a little crazy, she was still a young lady from a prestigious family, and from childhood to adulthood, she had never been defeated by anyone. Yet, at this moment, she was defeated by a man right in front of so many martial arts students who admired her, and was pinned down in such a humiliating position. She really wanted to bang her head against the ground and die. "I'm not convinced. I want to fight back with Karatito," Yi Xiaoyang said. "Enough. If you lose with Karatito, you can use Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing. If you use everything like that, how long will it take me to fight you?" Zhang Xiaoer knelt on the ground, biting her lip, unable to speak. Yi Xiaoyang felt sorry for her, so he loosened his grip and stepped aside. Zhang Xiaoer quickly jumped up, punched him in the chest, and shouted, "Take this." Yi Xiaoyang, caught off guard, took the punch, bent over, and spat out a mouthful of water. Zhang Xiaoer stood there stunned. "Why didn't you dodge?" Yi Xiaoyang wiped his mouth, struggled to stand up, and said, "Let you vent your anger, hit me." He said this with a nonchalant smile, but inwardly he cursed himself for being so stupid. If he had known Zhang Xiaoer's punch would hurt so much, he would have equipped himself with a thick belt, thick clothes, and stuffed a lot of cotton inside. Zhang Xiaoer was moved by him, and most importantly, despite the numerous physical contact during the sparring match, Yi Xiaoyang hadn't joked with her at all. This made Zhang Xiaoer suddenly feel fond of him. She also felt that physical contact during a martial arts fight was normal, and besides, she was the one who initiated the move, bumping and touching him first. Thinking it through, Zhang Xiaoer's anger subsided, and she sighed, saying, "Okay, Master Yi, I accept defeat. From now on, you are the head of our martial arts club." Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand. "I won't do it. Just let me go. Can I leave now?" After saying that, he went to Xiao Ma, snatched the steamed bun and the cup of soy milk from his hand, and leisurely walked towards the main gate while eating. Yi Xiaoyang walked past the burly martial arts student from earlier without even glancing at him, simply walking away at a relaxed pace. The martial arts student immediately moved aside for Yi Xiaoyang, and the people behind him also scattered, making way for him. Everyone silently watched him arrogantly walk out of the stadium without looking back. He hadn't gone more than a few hundred meters when a voice suddenly rang out from behind. "Wait for me." Yi Xiaoyang turned around and saw Zhang Xiaoer chasing after him. His heart involuntarily trembled. "Damn it. Don't tell me that crazy woman still hasn't given up and wants to fight me again." Zhang Xiaoer ran up to Yi Xiaoyang, looked up at him, and said breathlessly, "Yi Xiaoyang, I can't beat you." Chapter 197. Sister-in-law Gua. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Little Yi, where are you going now? To find senior brother Gua and see how far he's progressed in crafting the magic weapon. I need to help him out. We have to quickly capture He Ji so we can go to Sichuan. Little Ma said, "Oh, then you go ahead. I want to go home for a visit." "Go home. Yi Xiaoyang looked at Little Ma in surprise. Although he knew Little Ma's house was nearby, he had never seen him go home before, so he was a little surprised for a moment. Little Ma nodded and said, "Yes, I haven't been home for a long time. Since I have nothing to do these past 2 days, I want to go home to visit my parents. I originally intended to ask you to come along, but you're too busy. When you have the chance, take me home to pay my respects to your parents." Yi Xiaoyang patted the boy on the shoulder, speaking affectionately. The two said goodbye at the bus station. Xiaoma waited for the bus to take him to the train station, while Yi Xiaoyang hailed another taxi to go to Old Guo's house. As soon as he entered, he saw a plump woman arranging a pile of fireworks. Seeing Yi Xiaoyang, she asked, "Young man, what do you want to buy?" I'm looking for Old Guo." The woman smiled and said, "For a consecration?" "Ah, yes." Yi Xiaoyang vaguely guessed her identity and replied casually, "Then please wait a moment." The woman pulled back the curtain and rushed inside, shouting, "Landlord, someone wants to perform a consecration." Immediately, Old Guo's voice came from inside. "I'm not opening the door. I'm very busy. I haven't finished the work for my junior disciple yet. No matter how much money you offer, I won't perform the consecration." Yi Xiaoyang was suddenly touched and called out, "Senior brother, it's me." A moment later, the curtain was lifted and Old Guo and the woman came out. She smiled at Yi Xiaoyang, pointed at her, and said, "That's your sister-in-law." Before Yi Xiaoyang could say anything, Aunt Guo quickly stepped forward, affectionately patted Yi Xiaoyang's back, and chuckled. "So it's Xiaoyang. Oh, why didn't you say so earlier? Sit down." She invited Yi Xiaoyang to sit down, secretly appraising him, and said with a cheerful smile, "I've heard Old Guo mention you before, saying you were in Shurching. So I've always wanted to invite you to our house, but Old Guo kept saying you were busy, so I couldn't meet you. Today, I heard he said he had to make some things for you, so I came here to take a look, and I happened to meet you. I've made some delicious dishes. Please feel free to eat and drink." As soon as she called him auntie, Yi Xiaoyang immediately felt annoyed. What the heck? Calling her auntie and her husband senior brother? What kind of behavior is this? Old Guo glared at his wife in displeasure, saying, "Stop talking nonsense. This is my junior disciple. He shares the same master as me. Who gave you permission to call him aunt and call him son? Does that mean you're also my aunt?" Then he smacked his lips and looked at Yi Xiaoyang, saying, "Don't hold a grudge against your sister-in-law. You've come at the right time." Chapter 198. The Story of the Seventh Ant. 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Tan Xiaowei didn't say much, only telling him to hurry to her place. After hanging up the phone, Yi Xiaoyang recounted the events to Old Guo. Old Guo was endlessly surprised and said to Yi Xiaoyang, "Just go there and see how it is. There's only one more step left. I can do it alone. When it's finished, I'll bring the supplies to Li Family Village for you. Remember to let me know the situation when you come back." Yi Xiaoyang agreed. Old Guo called his wife to see Yi Xiaoyang off. Guo's wife brought out a bag of more than 10 tea-boiled eggs, saying that she had taken the trouble to cook them and told him to definitely take them home to eat. Unable to refuse such kindness, Yi Xiaoyang had no choice but to accept the bag of boiled eggs and call a taxi to go to Tan Xiaowei's place. He found the hotel where she was staying, asked for her room number, went up to her room, and knocked on the door. A beautiful girl opened the door, startling Yi Xiaoyang. He quickly and awkwardly said, "Sorry, wrong room." "Right, Master Yi, please come in." "You are." The girl smiled. "You'll know when you come in." After entering, Yi Xiaoyang saw Tan Xiaowei sitting on the sofa, next to a man in his 20s with a buzz cut, wearing a long robe and a large string of Buddhist beads around his neck. He had a refined demeanor and seemed very wise. However, Yi Xiaoyang could tell at a glance that this man was problematic. He seemed to have a faint layer of demonic energy around him, and also a powerful aura of spiritual energy, common among those in the magical world. "This is the friend I've been waiting for. Her name is Wang Ting, and her status is the same as mine. No need for introductions." After Tan Xiaowei introduced her, the girl immediately winked at Yi Xiaoyang. "Greetings, Master Yi. I've long heard of your great reputation. At first I thought you were an old man, but unexpectedly you're a hot boy." Yi Xiaoyang smiled faintly, extremely surprised in his heart. This girl looked like a 15-year-old girl, but unexpectedly, she was a sorceress. Luckily, she was a white sorcerer. If she were a black sorcerer, with such a lowly appearance, no one would probably be wary of her. And this is... Tan Xiaowei pointed to the man beside her. Lotus Layman of Wutai Mountain 1. Wutai Mountain. Wutai Mountain, also known as Qingliang Mountain, is located in Wutai County, Hangzhou City, Shaanxi Province, China. It is one of the 4 great Buddhist mountains in China. Legend says that, one year, a large vegetarian feast was held there. A beggar woman brought 2 small children and a hungry dog to beg for food. She was given 3 portions, but that wasn't enough, so she said, the dog should also have a share. The monk gave her an extra portion, but the woman said, I have a baby in my womb, so it should also have a share. The monk became angry. Even an unborn child demands a share of food. You don't know what is enough. The woman replied, all beings are equal. Isn't a fetus also a human being? Having said this, the woman cut her hair, flew up to heaven, and a bodhisattva appeared. Her 2 children transformed into 2 young boys, and her dog turned into a blue lion. To this day, Mount Wutai still has the Manjushri hair pagoda, said to be the place where the hair of Manjushri Bodhisattva is kept. Even today, it is still believed that the Bodhisattva Manjushri often manifests on this mountain in the form of ordinary pilgrims or monks, or appears as multicolored clouds. The man stood up, clasped his hands, and bowed to Yi Xiaoyang, saying, the spirit of Luoyang gives rise to enlightenment. I am a lay Buddhist. My secular name is Tung Yongqing. I pay my respects to Master Yi, the renowned and powerful master of the Maoshan Heavenly Tao, Yi Xiaoyang. Yi Xiaoyang also clasped his hands in greeting. Tan Xiaowei and Wang Ting stared at each other with their mouths agape, bewildered, saying, what are you talking about? It sounds like the slang of the underworld. Yi Xiaoyang smiled faintly. Those who practice magic, whether Taoist, Buddhist, or folk practitioners, are all people in the world of magic. The major sects like Maoshan and Luojiashan rarely meet each other. Chapter 199. The Story of the Seventh Lady, 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang slowly nodded. He believed that Tung Zhongyun was a sorcerer, and even for safety reasons, he absolutely could not live with a demoness who practiced evil magic. Tung Yongqing continued. The truth is like this. The 2 of them lived together for many years, and suddenly a sorcerer came from nowhere and discovered the true Buddha form of the Seventh Lady, planned to capture her, and then fight with her. How come there are so many Fahai in the world? Tan Xiaowei sighed. Yi Xiaoyang asked curiously, does Sichuan also have the legend of the white snake? My house has a TV. What is there not to have? Dam Xiaowei immediately replied, shifting her gaze to Tung Yongqing, and asked, continue, what happened next? That sorcerer was no match for Miss Seven. Miss Seven spared his life, but he was resentful and went around spreading rumors about Miss Seven's identity. As a result, the next day, villagers from 6 villages of the Tung family surrounded Grandpa's house, forcing him to drive away the demon. Miss Seven, having been ambushed by the sorcerer and her body damaged by a magical artifact, was overcome with evil and killed several people. Grandpa Tung Zhongyun, after all, was a sorcerer and also the clan leader. Seeing Miss Seven kill people, he was emotionally agitated and fought with Miss Seven to protect his clansmen. Miss Seven naturally refused to fight him, so she fled, leaving Grandpa Tung Zhongyun constantly reprimanded by the clansmen, forced to bring the demon back and tasked with capturing Miss Seven. Otherwise, he would be stripped of his position as clan leader. Grandpa Tung Zhongyun alone. He went to the mountain to find the Seventh Lady. I don't know what they talked about, but the Seventh Lady willingly sacrificed herself for him, atoning for her sins to restore her grandfather's reputation with the clan. She even voluntarily offered her blood, accepting her grandfather's imprisonment in a temple, where he would confine her to the 5 elements in severing formation forever. Hearing this, Yi Xiaoyang suddenly understood. So the Seventh Lady's temple and the 5 elements in severing formation were related. This also matched his previous speculation, but he didn't expect such a complicated love story behind it. Tan Xiaowei sighed and said, What a devoted woman. What happened afterward? Why did she start cultivating evil? Tung Yongqing continued. Afterward, grandfather Tung Zhongyun often visited her at the temple and even encouraged the villagers to offer incense and worship. Although they were no longer husband and wife, for the seventh lady, this was something she had to accept. Well, anyway, one person and one lover can't be together for life. However, in the following visits, Grandpa Tung Zhongyun came to the temple much less often, and his attitude was no longer the same as before, and then he gradually stopped coming altogether. Seventh Aunt kept waiting for him in the temple, anxiously worrying. Chapter 200, Rebattle with He-Ji, 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang smiled faintly and said, as long as you come to help me and not to help your great-grandmother, I welcome you with open arms. Deng Yongqing said, Master Yi, I have been reciting Buddhist scriptures for so many years. I understand what is right and wrong, what is loyalty and responsibility, and I have also achieved some success. I can suppress the demon blood in my body. There is no problem. Yi Xiaoyang nodded and said, why didn't your ancestors think of a way to solve this? Deng Yongqing stroked his hand and said, because there is fundamentally no way to solve it. If we release the seventh ant, the whole region will suffer a great catastrophe. So only by maintaining the status quo and sealing her in the temple can we have a chance to escape the disaster. Moreover, my predecessor's cultivation is limited, and they simply didn't dare go near her temple to avoid her sensing it and use the bloodline to activate the demon blood. I also knew that Master Yi Tian was here, so I dared to come down the mountain to deal with it. If I can't control it, Master Yi Tian, please help me. Yi Xiaoyang nodded. Wang Ting, standing next to him, sighed and said, I didn't expect seventh sister to have such a tragic story. She is a woman with a miserable fate, reaching this point because of unfulfilled love. Everyone silently bowed their heads. Yi Xiaoyang said, even though she has a miserable fate, she is still a demon. Marrying a human is against the laws of heaven, and Tung Zhongyun certainly also made mistakes. He must have been punished. Yet she persisted in seeking revenge, her obsession too deep, causing harm to humanity. If we forgive her only because she was hurt in love, then wouldn't those she killed have died in vain? Wang Ting was startled, nodded, and muttered, Brother Yi is absolutely right. Tan Xiaowei added, even if she has never killed anyone, she cannot be released from the temple, because with her current obsession, once she escapes, she will surely cause a massacre. Deng Yongqing agreed. That's right, but if possible, I hope Master Yi will not destroy her soul, so that I can capture her and take her back to Luojia Mountain for salvation. Let's win first, then we'll talk. Yi Xiaoyang smiled helplessly. If we all die, then we won't have so many dreams anymore. However, although he said that, having a sorcerer join the team to help him, Yi Xiaoyang felt quite a bit of pressure. He wondered if this sorcerer from Luojia Mountain had weak magical power. Just then, Yi Xiaoyang received a call from Old Gua saying that the supplies were ready and he was driving to Lijia village, asking when he would arrive. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, Yi Xiaoyang said he would come later, hung up the phone, and immediately called Zhou Jingru to tell her to prepare a boat, a few bags of realgar and quicklime for him, and then told her to wait for him there. Yi Xiaoyang put down the phone, recounted the story to everyone, and asked them to come and help, but in reality, he had already prepared everything to deal with He-Ji. He just wanted to take this opportunity to gauge Tung Yongqing's strength a little. But most importantly, he wanted to know what kind of abilities this little girl, Wang Ting, possessed that made Tan Xiaowei wait for her. Deng Yongqing readily agreed to help. Tan Xiaowei shook her head, saying, 2 people are enough. Shouting, and I have other things to do. Yi Xiaoyang casually asked, what is it? Searching for my cousin's remains. Yi Xiaoyang was slightly surprised. If he hadn't heard Tan Xiaowei say it, he would have forgotten that Tan Xiaowei had a cousin who had been murdered by Granny Qi, her remains still in the well. He immediately asked, you want to go to the well? Tan Xiaowei nodded. The ghost servant is dead, there's no more danger, but I still have to be careful. So the 4 of them agreed to take a taxi to the mainland mountain villa. Tan Xiaowei and Wang Ting got out first, while he and Deng Yongqing stayed behind to continue the journey. They arrived at Li family village. The driver, worried about the long distance to Li family village, said he couldn't go any further. Yi Xiaoyang scratched his head and asked Teng Yongqing, "Do you have any money?"